person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions. By thoughts, I mean specifically chatter in the skull, perpetual and compulsive repetition of words, of reckoning and calculating. I'm not saying that thinking is bad. Like everything else, it's useful in moderation. A good servant, but a bad master. And all so-called civilized peoples have increasingly become crazy and self-destructive because through excessive thinking they have lost touch with reality. Most of us would have rather money than tangible wealth, and a great occasion is somehow spoiled for us unless photographed. And to read about it the next day in the newspaper is oddly more fun for us than the original event. This is a disaster. To get in touch with reality, there is an art of meditation, of what is called yoga or jhana in India, Chan in China, and Zen in Japan. It is the art of temporarily silencing the mind, of stopping the chatter in the skull. Of course, you can't force your mind to be silent.
You can't do it.
That would be like trying to smooth ripples in water with a flat iron.
Boom!
Water becomes clear and calm only when left alone.
Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, bringing you a grand solar minimum update. Saturday, January 26th, 1 a.m. Mountain Time. It's boom time. We'll get back to that track. Evacuation urgente volcán Manam de Papua New Guinea. Entra en eruption. Take a look. Manam blowing almost 10 miles into the stratosphere yesterday, and this guy doesn't even know why. I'll tell you why. Increased cosmic rays, a waning magnetosphere, and the military's being deployed before your very lives into the jungles of Manam. There it is. It's boom time. I hope you put on your seatbelts, kids. Buckle up. It's about to get dirty. Keep calm. It's boom time. Over 20 cities could break temperature records as dangerous bitter cold invades the Midwest. Al, get in your hole. Tie yourself up. This is getting insane. Global warming my ass. A runner and his dog braved frigid conditions Thursday while making their way across the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis. One of our listeners emailed me earlier. They're in Indiana, and they said Indiana is now Minnesota. And they said, thanks, Al. Over the next week, there could be 2 cold waves impacting the eastern half of the country. The first one will bring temperatures of 15 to 20 degrees below normal across the Midwest. The second will be one for the record books, and it will cook the chooks. Colder and colder in the glacial zone. Over 20 cities have the potential to break record lows Wednesday and Thursday morning. And more than 35 cities have the potential and have their coldest high temps on record Wednesday and Thursday. It just isn't about records, though. It's all about global warming. The second cold blast will be very widespread, bringing below freezing temperatures all the way down to the Iguana Apocalypse 2019 as predicted. In fact, 68 million people, nearly a quarter of the U.S. population, will be totally freezing their ass off. Ow! I want my bundt cake toasted lightly tonight. And wear that pink tutu. Oh my God. Boom! We were supposed to be on mute. Heads up. 5 minutes in, and the gremlins are barely affecting us, except now we have black and white screens. I don't know what that means. Keep calm. It's black and white screen time. National Weather Service wind chill chart says that you could potentially not even be able to light your fart on this chart. At minus 98 is the lowest ever recorded on Earth. We told you that Antarctica recorded that temperature continuously for the last decade during global warming. The lowest temperatures ever recorded on Earth happened over the last decade. Anyway, record-breaking and potentially historic outbreak of cold still appears to be in the offing for the middle of next week, according to the Chicago National Weather Service up in Chi-Town. Greater than normal degrees of forecast uncertainties as temperatures, due to large part because our models are a little tweaky and they're being broken because they're shattered. Potentially dangerous winter weather likely up in Chi-Town. Multiple bouts of severe winter conditions likely for days upon days, as we predicted days upon days ago. Mainstream is picking up what we're putting down, and you're about to die if you don't have the proper prior preparation in order. And we're imploring you to do that. Have water on hand. Water main breaks will mean you can't flush your toto. Ho ho. We're going to push this all the way back. You're not even supposed to look at that. We're going to look at something else. Whew, I got ahead of myself. I didn't check the links before we began the twinks. And with this many tabs open, you remember Tab back in the 70s? The carcinogenic cola that came back in the 90s? Same Tab. Do a dab. Heads up. We're jiggling cables now and crossing our fingers, because clearly there's something afoot at the Oppenheimer Ranch Project. Usually it untweaks itself quicker than this. Boom! I love it when a plan comes together. But it's not really coming together. But if we can just close some of these tabs and move forward, I'm sure we could probably get through it. I don't really know what's hanging me up, and if I had a specialist, I'd know. 135-year-olds, oh, it could be this. It could be the Manam volcano eruption, and we'll just shut that down, and I'll leave you links below, because that baby was huge. Actually, let's just pause it and see how we can work. Let's work with it. 135-year-old snowfall record tumbles in New York as ambulances plow through the snow with chains on. 135-year-old snowfall record was broken in New York last weekend, with mainstream media being silent and our friends over at Electroverse being loud. Total accumulation surpassing 20 inches in some parts of the state, breaking records set back in 1884. On January 19th with 6.3 inches, booming out the records. They're wading in deep to look for some facts, and they got them. And we're going to report on them. Thank you, Electroverse. Have you seen where the latest Arctic sea ice thickness is? Multi-decadal highs. It's insane. Yet the mainstream claims we're burning up. Deep freeze gripping the Midwestern United States will set the stage for several opportunities for snow. I feel like I read this before. Which may come Sunday into Monday, impact major cities from Minneapolis to Chi-Town and Detroit. As snow and lake effect squalls sweep across the Great Lakes, fresh Arctic air will plummet down to Florida, initiating the iguana apocalypse 2019 as we predicted. I cannot wait to read the articles. As snow and lake effect squalls sweep across the Great Lakes, fresh Arctic air will continue to blast across the Midwest through Friday, which will be your shy day. In most regions, the air mass descending on the Midwest will be colder than the one from before. And who is that talking? Let's just shut her up. I'm done with this. We're lagging. Less tabs means more speed. I love tweed. Don't you? I go to the thrift store and I'm always looking for that jacket in corduroy with the elbow pads. Damn, I love those. Maybe a leather button. Alligators are freezing themselves again to survive the winter. Polar vortex to blast Midwest,
CBS
Northeast
reports,
U.S.
alligators in
with
North Carolina
extreme
are again
cold
freezing
in
themselves
January.
up to their noses.
We didn't ask you to talk yet. We will listen to what you have to say, but give us a chance, man. Whew. Holy macaroni! Oh, we blew it. We have to do things slowly here. Take a breath. We still have 47 tabs open.
CBS reports, alligators in North Carolina are again freezing themselves up to their noses. The behavior was first observed last year during a cold snap that affected the Charlotte River Swamp Park. According to the Charlotte Observer, the practice has since caught on and gators are doing it this time around. The park's manager is quoted by the outlet as saying the giant reptiles appear to be able to sense when the water surface is about to freeze over as they poke their noses through at just the right moment. The frigid temps of the water below then put them in a state similar to hibernation. Based on last year's self-freezing, they eventually thaw out and go on with lives as usual.
Did you hear that? I can't make it up. I know it echoed and I apologize. But that's important information. We are now back-to-back years with alligators evolving. And they're evolving to freeze in areas that haven't been frozen for over 100 years. Please shut up. The cold air plunging back into the Midwest and Northeast in the U.S. is expected to freeze alligators in place in southern areas. Coldest air of the season. Tuesday temps will be below average up to 20 degrees. Record lows challenged through Duluth, Minneapolis, Green Bay. The end of January will bring the coldest air ever into the Midwest. Some areas for over 100 years. Rival the Arctic blast from earlier this week and the coldest in the Northeast ever. Are you prepared? It's getting real. As we predicted a year ago, this exact same thing would happen. Now, these effects are going to extend into March. We don't expect, based on the data of the Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation and the Arctic oscillation, we don't expect any reprieve until late February. But the data is not good then, so it doesn't look good, kids. Milwaukee Public Schools closed Friday because of extreme cold. Unprecedented. All Milwaukee's public schools are closed because of temperature. Temperature. Closed. We closed you because of temperature. Global warming. You're closed because of the warming. You pricks. Now go home and get closed. Did you hear Donald Trump folded? Yeah, that's because the airline industry was about to go bankrupt and the entire world monopoly would have collapsed. So the shadow government stepped in and said, you cannot go one day further because we got to keep this ruse going. And it's hot out. Potentially record-setting Arctic air mass poised to plunge through central and eastern U.S. late this weekend. Potentially record-setting? You better say potentially or we'll have your ass. The coldest air mass of 2019 and maybe 100 years is expected to plunge through the central and eastern U.S. late this weekend and into early next week. The coldest air mass in a century will be poised over the northern plains and Great Lakes region with wind chill values exceeding 40 degrees below zero. Heavy snow and hazardous travel also possible. All of you schmucks that believe in global warming that have been emailing me for the last year and a half and said I lived in Minnesota, it was minus 40. You got it. They all moved to Florida. Those schmucks. Iguana apocalypse much? We're getting to it. I got to click on stuff. Huge quake happening just moments ago. 6.2 Solomon Islands at a depth of 357.8 kilometers. That is putting us in a danger range for a major uptick here. We're going to look for a 7 magnitude or greater happening in the next 24 hours. I'm circling it. Do it now. Heads up tsunami to the coast of Washington. Potential is about 20% currently. If a major quake kicks off, why is this not loading? Cold warning in effect for Wawa. I love that mini mart. Heads up, New England. Extreme wind chills of 40°C minus 45 will occur tonight into Friday morning. At Wawa, Pulaski Park, and Dubreuilville, that already happened. And it was cold. Holy sh... Parts of Saskatchewan under extreme cold warning. Bus cancellations this morning with extreme cold warning. West Central Saskatchewan canceling more buses so that children wouldn't freeze to death. Good job. Yes! You hear that, Al? Give me a golf clap. Where's my bundt cake? Where's my bundt cake? Power outages hit Melbourne, regional Victoria as state swelters through extreme weather. Hottest temperatures ever recorded. Where it is summer right now. Now I got bad news for you kids. Next summer is not going to be good. Here's how grand solar minimums roll out. As the sun shuts down and the magnetosphere wanes, and we happen to also be in the magnetic reversal. We're fluxed. We're going to be looking for the highest surface temperatures ever recorded in history. As the magnetosphere wanes, more radiation is able to penetrate to the surface, causing damage to crops. We're talking leaf burn. We're talking UVA, BC, all increasing. UVC, first time recorded on Earth only in the last few years. And it's going to be increasing, damaging biological life on the surface. Get shade screens, learn how to grow your own food, and start preparing for the nightmare that's ever increasing, including to record high temperatures after prolonged cold temperatures late into the spring, and then at that same time, record highs, scorching the earth and scorching the plants. So if you do not have a way to mitigate these extremes, you're fluxed. I recommend rigid greenhouses, high tunnels with shade cloth, and other growing regimens that you can experiment with now before the times get tough. The times are getting tough right now, and we're only going to see it increasing as we move forward. So if you're not stepping up your game, buy a high tunnel, spend $100. Don't go to the movies for a year. Stop going to Starbucks. Learn how PVC 3/4 inch Schedule 80 can be bent, buried in the ground to make you a high tunnel for under $50. Learn how to do that. Google it. Look in YouTube. Cheap high tunnel. Power outages hit Melbourne as record high temperatures predicted as we descend into the grand solar minimum will be recorded across the earth. That's not news, but it's news now. And that's a boom. To knowledge. Vale Dam collapses in southeastern Brazil because multinational corporations that have all the money in third world countries, they don't give a about you. These MFers, the money funders, killed up to 6,000 people today, and they're reporting on 200 deaths. More than 200 people were officially missing Friday after a dam burst. Mine owners at the Vale, South Brazil, largest iron ore company. The incident washed out roads, created havoc in the town of Brumadinho in the state of Minas Gerais, whatever that means. Totally, everybody Do not live in the valley. Put your house up high. 6.2, 50 kilometers southwest of Chuquibanga, Solomon Islands. Putting us on a seismic watch. We have multiple activities here on the coast of South America. So, fracking warning, Oklahoma, Kansas South, boom, boom, and a very rare, unique quake here in Courant, Nevada at 3.8. And this is the basin and range area. Now, this area only increases seismicity when the earth is swelling. So we've had evidence that the earth is swelling on mid-ocean ridges, and now we have continental regions, specifically in the basin and range, that are also swelling. Because the only way you can get activity here is when there is spreading. As if, and we have hypothesized this geologically in academia, there may be a buried mid-ocean ridge that had been subducted under North America here, which causes the basin and range environment. That's a lot to think about. And we're already speaking English. Here's chart 4, great earthquakes and sunspot activity. What I want to see, what I want you to show here is the giant red, rojo, if you speak the Spanish, vertical lines. Now these red vertical lines represent great earthquakes, and the blue is sunspot activity. Clearly any retard or mentally challenged human could easily see that the red lines seem to be accumulating in higher numbers at the low zones of the sunspots. Yes, we're even talking young children to the age of 3, or even frogs, maybe chimpanzees, could see the correlation, which, by the way, is not causation, and I'm not even claiming that, but I just wanted to show you how beautiful these colors are. And they're very beautiful, and there's colors. Did you notice how many of the red lines were to the right when the solar activity was really low? Yeah, that was crazy, wasn't it? Manam explodes to 16.7 kilometers, 55,000 feet, evacuations ordered, and locals are pissed. They're like, why do you have science, Facebook, and Google? How come you couldn't Google this eruption, you bitches? And they want evacuations now. Another high-impact eruption, and the biggest in the current eruptive period, took place at Manam just 39 hours ago, Papua New Guinea. Crops have been destroyed. Infrastructure, including communication towers linking the island to the mainland. Can I say that faster? Here we are, urgent evacuations at Manamian eruptions, and the boom boom is happening now. Whew. Let's watch it, and let's listen to some good stuff. We can find something. Maybe, let's do the pyramid one. It's reading.
We're consumers. Okay, buy a lot of stuff, you're a good citizen. But if you don't buy a lot of stuff, what are you then, I ask you? What? Mentally ill. If you don't buy things, toilet paper, new cars, computerized blenders, electrically operated sexual devices, stereo systems with brain-implanted headphones, screwdrivers, miniature built-in radar devices, voice-activated computers. Look, listen, Neil, pray. Commercials.
Refuse to be a motherfucking victim, so I'm fighting back, screaming fuck the system. Chips in your wrist, you're in prison. Dangerous freedom or peaceful slavery, that one or this one. FBI, ABC, CIA, 1, 2, 3, acronyms, activists, which one will come for me? My brains are fluoridated, the more and more you take it, you're dumb. Pituitary gland is aching.
We're consumers, Jim. Okay, buy a lot of stuff, you're a good citizen. But if you don't buy a lot of stuff, what are you then, I ask?
What are you?
What? mentally ill. Don't buy things, toilet paper, new cars, computerized blenders, electrically operated sexual devices, stereo systems with brain implanted headphones, screwdrivers, miniature built-in radar devices, voice-activated computers. Look, listen, Neil, pray.
To commercial. Get him.
I refuse to be a motherfucking victim, so I'm fighting back, screaming fuck the system. Chips in your wrist, you're in prison. Dangerous freedom or peaceful slavery. That one or this one. FBI, ABC, CIA, 1, 2, 3. Acronyms, activists. Which one will cover me? My brains are fluoridated. The more and more you take it, you're dumb still. Pituitary gland is aching. R.I.P. to the bees, not the musical. Taking flight at the NSA, my CD's in a cubicle. That's what the truth will do. Put you on a watch list, then they come knocking, saying you gotta stop this. If not, then you'll see what a flu shot is. Injecting you with gravy, genetically modded prospect. You are born in the 14th Amendment. Your label's domestic. Here's what you're left with.
Are you gonna be a puppet to the master? Are you gonna be a puppet to the master? Are you gonna be a puppet to the master? Are you gonna be a puppet to the master? Are you gonna be a puppet to the master? Are you gonna be a puppet to the master? Are you gonna be a puppet to the master?
Are you? Are you? We got a lot to go. Are you going to be a puppet to the master? Or are you going to watch the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and spread the message? The message of the cosmic ray increase, the magnetic reversal, and the impending global unrest to this world. It doesn't happen all at once, folks. It happens slowly. It trickles down. When they were mentioning trickle-down economics is going to save you, I'll tell you what's going to trickle down. The lava onto the ground. It's going to burn human lives. It's going to burn all the crops. And it's going to raise prices in the stores. And you are going to be the victim. You are going to be the puppet to the master. Just like in Rome, when over the half of the days were celebrations. What do you think mass media, entertainment, Netflix, what do you think that's all for? You work your entire life slaving 40, 50, 60 hours a week, depending on who you are and your type. And then you come home and you stare at the brainwash machine. The brainwashing machine. Yeah, you stare at it. And it continues to influence you. You stare at it. You're continuing to stare at it. Only the good thing is, watching my channel, you're getting information. Real information. This is live footage in the last 24 hours. What's happening on your Earth. It's not fake. I didn't make it up. I'm showing you facts. To save your ass. Because the science is in. My whole life has been dedicated to studying this topic. And it's unfolding before my very eyes and your very lives. Cosmic ray increase is causing a volcanic uptick that is unprecedented in modern human history. Right now, over 55 volcanoes erupting worldwide. Almost double. And by next year, there should be over 65 or 70. Each individual volcano, including Manam's eruption yesterday that you're looking at, which was VEI 3, potentially VEI 4, but I guarantee they're not going to label it as that, is preceding the next VEI 5. Which you will live, unless you die this year, which you very well could if you're susceptible to myocardial infarction, because this year the sun is going to outburst. I'm about to talk in the next few minutes about the sun kicking up at grand solar minimum cycle 24. We're now up in B range. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So those susceptible to geomagnetic storms with the waning magnetosphere will be ever susceptible. Do you know how many people have confided in me? And I'm going to tell you now for the first time in public how sick we were during the last eclipse. It began 12 hours prior to the eclipse, and it lasted through the eclipse and 24 hours after. It almost felt like a gastrointestinal sickness. Those of you that are intuitive, like I am, and like others that know me, comment below how sick you were before the eclipse and after. You're not alone. These are cosmogenic effects, and we're sharing them with you. I guarantee 10% of the comments below are going to be about how many people were sick before or after the eclipse and they didn't know why. Like mild food poisoning. It's the best way I can describe it. I am empathic to the point in where I think that I'm able to feel the pain of all 8 billion people. I have a therapist that we talk about this. I do EMDR treatments. I suffer from PTSD, from an abusive past that many of you also suffer from. There are escape mechanisms, which why I implore the public to seek out meditative practices, yoga. Look into the Tibetan rites, the Fountain of Youth. These are esoteric knowledges that you need to know. Everyone needs to know. I deal in the esoteric and the physical sciences because my graduate degree is in physical sciences. I excel in geology, field mapping, field geology. Interpretive earth sciences is my specialty. And I never believed anything they taught me. I came up with my own conclusions, which seemed to be correct. They seem to be playing out before our very lives. I'm not gloating or boasting, but I want you to understand and concur with me that many people have been seeking out this information among the wrong paths. They're influenced by their job security, their family security, their 401k, their retirement. I was robbed of all that for decades, and I thought that I was a dead man walking. But I rose from the ashes to kiss all those asses. Consider it a resurrection from the dead for your benefit and the benefit of everyone on earth, because I don't know why I do this work, but I'm driven like a dump truck. Now, Manam erupted at 55,000 feet, just 1919. You know why I know? Because I reported on it, and we have 11,000 views. Check out this video. So, Manam is now double boom boom this month at high levels. And I believe if you watch this video, I predicted that this one could go off at VEI 4 or greater anytime soon. And we nailed it. I don't even have to watch the video to know that that's what I predicted, because I'm not Paul Begley. But we'll get to that. Because all of the information that I'm giving to you, I don't know if you can feel it, is coming from the bottom of my heart. I don't have a script. I don't have a preconceived notion of what I do any single night. But I'm doing it for you. Another violent eruptive phase of paroxysm is occurring at Manam. Already the second such eruption this year, because I showed you that it just did it back on 1/9. And that 1/9 eruption ended on the 11th of January, according to VOC. And this one rose just as high. VEI 3-4 borderline, characterized by intense lava fountaining generated by tall ash plume darkening the skies and cooling the earth. In case you didn't know already. And for those of you just joining the channel, I implore you to go back into the daily updates all the way to the beginning, because each day I literally give a graduate level class on some aspect of science so that you can glean information. And I'm excellent at talking to laymen or beginners because that's what makes me a good teacher. I'm not a preacher. I'm explaining complex thoughts in simple terms so that you can understand them. Such as the fact that we have two major plagues on the sun here. Sunspots, sunspot regions. This particular region that we've been talking about has over 30 actual sunspots on it, maybe up to 100. But the way they delineate and categorize sunspots, they say 7 of these size or that many, and so on and so forth. It's difficult to get a real grasp on the situation. But you can clearly see the activity here is intense, and we haven't seen any intensity on the sun like this for quite some time. And let's go look at it. Let's go look at the... Let's open that baby. Oh shit. What did I just click? Wait for it. I was trying to save it, but I want to open it before your very lives. So you can see that the GOES X-ray flux has now come up into B range. This is new. Now, we shouldn't end solar minimum for at least 12 more months. But just like all cycles, there are bumps in the road. So we're coming back up. X-ray flux is coming up into the B range here today, all of January 25th. And then January 26th especially, staying up in that range. And I imagine that the next phase is going to be very deep and dark. And what I mean by that is that this red line is going to drop way below 10 to the 8th. Down into 10 to the 9th region, and we're going to get an extreme solar low. Starting in the spring and extending through the summer of next year, which will make that summer a bummer. And if a major volcanic event occurs, which my prediction will happen in Iceland, VEI 5, the next one, we just had the VEI 4 yesterday, and the VEI 5 will happen in March in Iceland. And that's going to make for maybe a year without a summer next summer for some regions. But we'll have to watch that closely. And I'm going out on a limb here because the amount of X-ray flux happening as we go into the deepest part of this minimum. As far as geomagnetic activity, we're coming back up into the 180 degree phi angle, which would be directly sun to earth. And there is a little bit of a density spike here. So let me just run through this and see if we can get some more data. Okay, it's leveling off. and the speed is dropping. So we're going to stay at about KP2 for the next 6 to 12 hours. Almost no aurora visible. But there is still a seismic uptick. So we're going to be watching that closely. If you didn't see the video I put out before tonight's update, Mount St. Helens is not about to erupt, regardless of what Paul Begley says. Fearmongers are frauds. And go watch the video. In fact, I'm really interested to see, because it had 5 thumbs downs at 600 views. That is a 100% increase over a normal video. So Paul Begley, I was told, as soon as I put this video up, took down my comments on his video and sent his troll army over to get us. So let's see how many of his troll army came out to thumbs us down. We're doing this live. We're doing it. 10 trolls. We don't get 10 thumbs downs unless there's 10,000 views. These are Paul Begley trolls. So please, I implore you, come over here, click on the first link. That takes you to Paul Begley's video where he fearmongers about Mount St. Helens is about to erupt.
Are you
Let's look
serious?
at it.
Are you serious, guys? Mount St. Helens. Warning, warning, warning. Scientists revealed that molten rock is rising 5 meters a day. I've actually looked at the video over a period of time. It's insane. 5 meters a day, the molten rock dome, the lava dome, is rising. Matter of fact, according to the reports, you remember back on May 18th, 1980, some of you may remember, when Mount St. Helens erupted in the United States, there in Washington State. The blast, which measured 5 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index, has been declared as the most disastrous volcanic eruption in modern U.S. history. A huge column rose 80,000 feet into the atmosphere and dispelled ash in 11 states, killing 57 people and causing more than $1 billion worth of damage. Well, it's been dormant ever since. Here we are, almost 40 years later, 39 years later, and scientists are now closely watching the volcano to make sure they are prepared in case the same thing is going to happen again. Amazon Prime's mega disaster. It's happened before.
So let's get to the facts. This fucker, I'm sorry, excuse my French, just fearmongered your ass off. The lava dome rose between 2002 and 2007 at the rates he claimed at the beginning. This video came out yesterday. So he has 1/3 viewers, subscribers. And they believe that now, because of his misinformation and his fear-mongering, that Mount St. Helens lava dome is rising 5 meters a day, which it's not. It stopped rising in 2007. There has been no activity at Mount St. Helens for decades. And this fucking fraud is scaring the shit out of 300,000 Christian bitches, which are now emailing me in number because they're scared to death why I'm not reporting on the fake information that this rapist pastor, Friends of BP Earth Fraud, they can all suck it. And if you subscribe to them, please go away. Jesus is not going to save you. Christ consciousness will. Using digital elevation models and facts and science, you can come over here and see exactly what Paul Begley duped you on. The time series dome of the glacier growth at Mount St. Helens, which just came out to the public, was rehashed and picked up by Forbes. That fraud has no scientific ability, picked up on, and didn't even read the article. And if he did, he purposely scared you to death so that you would inundate my email, because you know I'm a better scientist than that prick, because he is a prick, him and BP Earthwatch, which is why they took BP Earthwatch off the air because nothing he has ever claimed has ever come true. Hundreds of thousands of prediction from BP Earthwatch and Paul Begley have never come through, ever. Every single thing I've ever said since I went on the air has come to fruition. Not a single thing that I've ever claimed has not come true. And 1/3 people subscribe to Paul the Fraud Begley. What you're looking at is a mock-up of the satellite data from 2002 to 2012. The majority of the growth, we can pause it, that Paul Begley was talking about is in the back there. See that growth up there, back there? September 2005. Watch the growth in the back there. 2006. Watch the growth in the back again. So they have a time series video where you can see in many places USGS, but it all ends in 2007, the major 5 meter a day. And there has been no growth since then. Paul Begley, none. And if you want to check my sources, I'll leave you links to the monitoring instruments data at Mount St. Helens, which you're looking at. You're looking at 71 instruments now visible on my screen. 71 instruments and only 19 earthquakes, which are the little yellow dots, and none of these yellow dots are anywhere near Mount St. Helens caldera or cone or volcano. None of them. They have nothing to do with any magma moving anywhere, because these yellow dots would start to be around this region where there are 16 tiltimeters reporting no movement for the last decade. None. No movement at St. Helens for a decade, and Paul Begley just scared 1/3 people. And they all think that Mount St. Helens is going to erupt. Paul Begley is a terrorist. And if you care about facts and reporting, you should report him to YouTube and every other source that he is a domestic terrorist scaring hundreds of thousands of people and misinforming them on the facts. If you're stupid enough to think a pastor is qualified to talk about science, then you can suck it. But if you're smart enough to listen to the words that came out of my mouth, then you will report this prick as a danger to humanity, which is what he is. Period. There is not even, you don't even need a tribunal. You don't need a court of law to figure that out. It's called logic. If you have brain cells and an IQ above 80, you know Paul Begley is a fraud. Because everything I just told you is true, and everything he said is bullshit. And he scared hundreds of thousands of people that emailed me because they were worried about their family, their future, and their friends that Mount St. Helens was going to erupt. But Paul Begley misinformed the public, and he's a fraud. He is fake news. Fake. You need to eliminate him from the internet. They tried to get rid of BP Earthwatch, but he's back. He's now Earthwatch fraud. Get rid of these frauds, so that the public can be informed about the facts. If you care about people, if you're a human, listen to my words. They're capitalizing on your misery. That's bullshit. Bullshit. You know who's not capitalizing on your misery? Grand Solar Minimum's crazy Canuck, Brent Stumpf. He wants you to learn how to survive and thrive by seed saving.
Need some fairly large plots. Now, you can just save your seeds in a container of some kind, but I have come up with something that I think should work as the Grand Solar Minimum comes, and we have no idea what's going to basically happen, in what order, and how bad it's going to be. You don't want to keep all your eggs, or in this case seeds, in one basket. So, for example, I have some gigantium poppies. Now, of course, there's enough here to probably seed 10 acres, which is illegal. But anyway, you can seed a couple rows in the garden, no problem. So, what I do is I keep those seeds in a storage room in a cabinet. Now, to prevent losses from, you know, fire, hurricane, or not hurricane, but tornado, flood, you name it, I've come up with this system. What I'm doing is taking smaller containers, like this one here, filling them up, and this will be put into a separate box and located in either a separate building or a different location, so that in case of a bug out situation or in case of a disaster, you don't lose everything. You can always restart. That was the poppies. Here I've got diamond barley. I started 65 seeds I got from the gene bank. I've got probably a bushel now, so I put into a container, and I will make another video on the type of container I'm doing. Here's some camelina. If you're looking for something that's got a short season and you can make oil out of it, you can. It's got a lot of different uses. It's also called false flax. Here's another one. It's called Diana fava beans. I got these from Osborne Seeds. They have location in the US and Canada. I started with 1 pound, and I've probably got 20 or 30 pounds now. And this is a handy little container I found at a dollar store. And it actually kind of screws into place. It's fairly large. So I'm using the larger containers like this for the larger, like the beans, peas. These ones are going to be used for the really small seeds, like the, you know, flax. Here's Noralta flax. I actually started with 200 seeds from the gene bank, and now I've got enough to split everything up, and then of course everything else. Now, general rule of thumb I like to use is when you've got your seeds for planting, don't plant any more than half. If you have a crop loss, you need something to fall back on. So none of these big quantities of seed will be
awesome
totally seeded
information
out.
coming out here. I hope you just realized that, how awesome that information is coming out from the Grand Solar Minimum's crazy Canuck, Brett Stumpf. Really practical information on seed saving. If you don't know the basics of seed saving, check out some of my videos. Go to our video library where it says search, just put in seed saving and you'll find our seed saving videos. There are lots of different ways to save seeds, and there are lots of seed saving videos on the internet. So go out and search them. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance in our future, which is a self-sustainable future. As you can see here, for the last 50 million years, the long-term cooling trend is down 20 degrees centigrade. And they're claiming that we're going to burn up with a 3-degree spike in temperature. They're lying to you. It couldn't be the biggest, it's the biggest lie in history, geologic history. It's a fraud. Not true. Now, a couple people reached out to me today and were looking for B17 because I have a great video which just got demonetized completely last week. My B17 video versus cancer, demonetized. So I added a new section to the store, Survival Supplements, Survive and Thrive, where there are 25 versions of colloidal silver, which you can get immediately, as well as apricot kernels, all organic, apricot oil. Do it now. You want to beat cancer? Never let it start. If you take these products every day, you will never get sick. I haven't been sick in 10 years. 9.5. Haven't been to the hospital, haven't seen a doctor. Smoke a pack a day. I have osteoarthritis. I was a professional climber for 20 years. I medicate with CBD, cannabis oil, and turmeric, as well as many other essential oils. I take B17, apricot kernel, and colloidal silver. I'm going to spray some in my mouth right now. I'll show you how. You just get the sprayer and you go, whoa, get it. Ooh, my buddy Digiboo makes that. I get it for free, but you can buy it in bulk. You know, you buy these vats, 80 bucks, about 500 parts per million. You can make 5 gallons with this. 10 gallons, give it to your friends. It does not hurt your healthy gut bacteria. Colloidal silver. Use the soap. Don't overdo it, but do it. Check out the Oppenheimer Ranch Preparedness store for all your colloidal silver needs and B17 supplements. Kill cancer before you get it. Eat the apricot kernel. Do it. The FDA has not been Make your own colloidal silver. There's a $65 unit, the Compact EZ1, and an $85 unit with a tester. You can make thousands of gallons of your own if you have silver. Get the makers, give it to your friends, sell it to farmers market. Think outside of the box. You can make a killing on the end of the empire. We implore you to do it. Make your own colloidal silver, sell it to your friends. Do it now. I don't even know how to, I don't know where to go from there. Apollo astronauts may have brought back a piece of Earth from the moon. Yeah. Because a piece of Earth was blown onto the moon. Pretty obvious there. Their explanation is ludicrous, but the explanation I just gave you is Occam's razor. A piece of the Earth is on the moon because it recently got blown there. Because the moon is the closest thing in town, folks. Closest thing. New Horizons transmit incredibly clear pictures of the non-fused double asteroid, but the clearly electrically scoured Ultima Thule MU-69. It's awesome. Come check out this picture. It's crazy. There's Planet X. There's your Nibiru. Guys, I hope you got something out of the video. Unsubscribe to Paul Begley. Let's nip the disinformation in the bud. Claudia Abers and Planet X physicist. She bases her information on a fairy tale that's in her brain. Science is based on the hypothesis, which you test. Then you make a theory, which you test. And if your predictions match the theory, then you continue forward. And it's all based on some type of observation that you made. I am a field geologist. I have observed the rock record and all of the sedimentary rocks throughout all basins in North America and other places in the world. And they all exhibit the same catastrophic nested hierarchy of cyclic paradoxes, where one environment lays on top of another over an unconformity. These happen at 12,000 year periodicities for hundreds of millions of years. Something is externally controlling this. It's not you. It's not CO2. It's the sun. And beyond that, there's another forcing mechanism called the universe. We have yet to even grasp the concept of electric universe. And then before the empire collapses, the paradigm will not be fixed. So science is broken forever. Stop trying to fix science. Stick with the winners. The quickening is happening. The unfolding of the truth is before your very eyes. Let's end the disinformation now. You know what I'm saying. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. We need to work together. I would never work with Paul Begley if he paid me. And that's a boom. You don't need my tax accounts to prove that I'm genuine. I live in a barn, in a trailer, and I shit in a bucket. Paul Begley can fuck it. No, he can suck it. And that's a boom. Fuck you, BP Earthwatch.